I think the micro difference between you and Pete Sampras is.
Can we end it here? I'm good with that. I came, I saw, and I conquered.
See you next time. Welcome to Shankcast episode number 8. Today we're going to be confronting a tennis sandbagger. Would you call yourself a sandbagger, first of all? Would you like label yourself that or not necessarily? We'll get into the semantics.
To be honest, I personally wouldn't call myself a sandbagger just by viewing my record, my standalone record as a whole.
Okay. I think
I mean, if you go back, I think I have a winning percentage of like 78%. So I win 3 out of every 4 matches.
So is that planned or is that just part of the whole?
All right, hold on. So yeah, we're going to dig into this topic of like, what is sandbagging? If you've never heard of it before, if you've been around the block in tennis, you've heard about sandbagging. We're going to talk about tanking as well. We're going to define those. We have Ira here. If you've been following Essential Tennis for a long time, you recognize that sultry voice.
Yeah. That deep voice, yeah.
So welcome, Ira, first of all.
Thank you for having me.
Ira, certified OG of Essential Tennis. You're the first coach, like associate coach.
Third employee?
Yeah.
Beside yourself, of course.
Yeah, right. Me and then James and then Ira.
That's right.
So welcome back.
Thank you.
Good to have Ira here. He loves talk radio. He loves tennis. He loves playing tennis. So it'd be interesting to get Ira's perspective on this. So let's real quickly, let's kind of get everybody's take here. Let's define the terminology here. What is sandbagging? Ira, let's start with you and we'll go around. By the time it gets to me, I don't know if there'll be any thoughts left, but what's in your mind, what is the definition of sandbagging?
So I think sandbagging realistically is somebody that goes out and purposefully loses. Not necessarily doesn't give effort, but loses to protect a rating or to keep his winning percentage at a certain rate.
Okay. Megan?
I don't think you don't have to officially lose, but you can tank games or that kind of stuff. It's the same. You're losing points or games specifically because you want to. Like, that's your goal, is not to win those specific. I don't think it has to be like the match, though, to be a sandbagger.
Yeah. Okay.
I was going to say,
Kevin.
It's the strategic loss of points to gain an advantage of staying at a certain level or dropping your level.
Yeah, I would just add, I think it's like withholding in general. It might be your skill level, because sandbagging, like within the context of things other than tennis, I feel like you're trying to represent yourself as maybe a level that you're not. Like your actual ability for playing is higher than whatever. And there's micro and macro, elements to this. Like there's the whole match and there's a couple points, and we'll get into like why.
So it's interesting that you say that because and we'll get to it later, but you said not necessarily representing what your full potential is. And so when we touch on that, I'd be very anxious to give you my opinion on that.
Very anxious.
All right. And so within kind of, for me, within the category of sandbagging is maybe more of a nuanced like part of it. And that is tanking. And there's kind of different definitions. I think there's like macro tanking and there's more micro tanking. Ira, what's your definition of a tank or somebody who is tanking, or on a tennis court, what does tanking mean?
Well, I think it's just not giving full effort. You look at guys like Kyrgios who will stand there on the baseline, gripping his racket, being like, "Hey, man, you can serve whenever you want. Like, I'm not holding you back from serving. I don't really care if I win or lose this point." So I think that's a purposeful tank.
So to kind of give up?
Yeah.
Megan?
I think there's two sides of tanking. There's the side of give up, like not. They're cheersing donuts, just so you know.
Thank you for the donuts, Ira.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
There's tanking, like I don't care and I don't want to be here kind of tanking, like do whatever you want, kind of like what Ira was talking about. And then there's also tanking that's like specific, strategic, like I'm, deep in the second set, I'm down 1-5 and people might tank because they're like, well, I'll play a tie break instead of working my way all the way back through this or whatever. So I think there's different types of tanking in that sense.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I mean, you have totally different levels of like lack of effort because you just think you're not going to win. So you're just like, whatever. And then you have the strategic second set tank or deep down in the first set. And like, I'm just going to save energy. It's like a strategic tank. Then you have your Sandbagger using the tank as a weapon of losing a couple points or games to keep the score close so they don't look as good as they potentially are.
Yeah, I would maybe classify it under like emotional or psychological tank, where it's like you just don't care anymore. You're just so pissed that it's like, it just doesn't matter. I'm just going to go ahead and stop trying. And then there's your like tactical, like thought out, decide, there's like you're playing an angle by giving away whatever it is, points or games or a set or even a whole match, whatever it is. Other thoughts? Sandbagging, tanking? We defined that well enough for everybody?
Yeah. It's rumble.
All right. So let's get into it. Why would somebody want a lower rating? There's at least some people listening and watching right now that are like, okay, fine, and kind of makes sense, but I bust my ass like day after day, week after week, year after year to like try to climb the ladder and like get better and better. Why conceivably would somebody want to be ranked lower or rated lower? Ira?
Well, in my case, I think that it's not necessarily that I want to be a 4.0 player. I'm currently ranked 4.5. I have been.
I was going to say, are you down to 4.0 now?
Wow.
I am a 4 or 5 player. I've been bumped up to 5.0 3 times.
Really? I didn't know that.
And appealed all 3 times and got bumped back down. The last time is when I moved back from Texas, and I actually had to make a phone call into the offices of the USTA to plead my case, which in retrospect, I actually had a good case. Some matches were, when I went to Texas, I played in more tournaments. So I had, more matches because nobody knew me in Texas. I just wanted to play tennis, and I don't typically play tournaments here because the draws are very small, and it's really not worth taking a full weekend to play a round robin. Like in Texas, there's draws of 100+ players. And so for me, that was more exciting. And so when they calculated my rating in Texas, it was apparently, and I hung up the phone very quickly after I got my answer, that I was going to be appealed back down. But it was apparently the point systems are different, or they don't calculate individual tournaments. They only do USTA league matches. Huh. So my goal is to remain a 4.5, and I can go into the reason why I want to do that, but if we can save that for a little bit later in the conversation.
I kind of think that's important now. I'm curious to understand the mentality.
Yeah. So for you, why do you not want to be a 5.0?
Well, to be honest, firstly, I'd like to, in an elevator pitch, what defines a 5.0 player? And I'd like to ask each of you this question: like, what attributes go along with a 5.0 player?
Winning a lot of matches against 4 or 5 players is my answer.
Okay,
no, seriously, because like the NTRP chart, if you look at the chart,
so can we pull that up?
Yeah, sure.
If you played Division 1 college tennis, you have to be a 5.0.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'd be very curious to see what the
I think the
USTA
chart is bogus because it's like they try to put certain criteria and certain like elements of like whatever
physical
big
criteria,
weapon, and like moves well and like whatever it is. Yeah, I'll bring it up. But I think that whole thing is bogus because we all know there's 1,000,001 ways to win a tennis match.
Correct.
And technical proficiency is a lot of times way down on the list. I mean, we all know the player with the prettiest strokes or most proficient technical person doesn't always win.
So what would you mean by technical proficiency?
Like the ability to hit it,
bring
like
up the
top
chart,
spin or change direction of the ball.
All right, here we go. So here's the NTRP chart, 5.0.
I like that.
Strong shots with control, depth, and spin. Uses forehand to set up offensive situations. Has developed good touch, consistent on passing shots. Can use backhand as an aggressive shot with good consistency. Has good direction and depth on most shots. Varies spin. That's about a third of it. Like yada, yada, yada.
That's 5.0?
Yeah, yeah. I'm reading the chart for 5.0. So I guess that's what I mean by technical.
Yeah, big forehand, big serve,
consistent backhand. Yeah, not a massive weakness.
Yeah, correct. Now, you've played against me? You don't think you've ever seen me hit? I don't think you've ever seen me hit.
I've seen you hit a little bit.
Would you realistically rate me a 5.0?
Just based on those words?
Yes. What the USTA, which is the governing body of what we're talking about here, the leagues, which set up the system, would you rate me a 5.0 player?
Well,
no backhand, remember? No top spin,
I think the chart's
remember?
bogus.
I'm
Like,
just saying, but this is what the criteria of that.
right. But in real life, the way that they actually determine the number, some USTA official doesn't come and like scope out your match with binoculars
Correct.
and be like, oh, forehand power, check. Oh, backhand consistency, check. It's all algorithmically based, and it purely has to do with who you win against and who you lose against. And so,
Correct.
so to me, that should be the only criteria. It's head-to-head competition. It's purely objective. It's supposed to be
You got to
objective.
start somewhere though, and that's the issue: is that people
Sure.
are self-rating under
Just
or
reading the
above.
words and being like, oh, I can do
because
that.
there used to be years ago. There used to be a USTA person would come out and they had clinics and they would put you through like these specific
I would love
drills, and you could
I
either
did that when
do
I was
it.
in high
yeah,
school.
yeah, we did too. Like we used to hold them all the time, and so you would, and they would rate you.
So based on the criteria set up by the USTA, would you classify me a 5.0 player, having played against me?
So by the way, in high school, I wanted to get rated so I could play a league on a league team, and I went out, and the team I wanted to play for was a 5-0 team, and in high school, I went out, did the whole clinic thing. They like had you play some points, like they had their clipboard, and they were like writing stuff down, and the tester asked me, "What rating would you like?" And I said, "Well, I want to play on a 5.0 team." And he was like, "So you want to be 5-0?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And so that's the rating he gave me.
Oh, that's dirty.
So
Yeah.
you tell me, is my backhand weak in high school, do you think?
Yes.
Somehow I got a 5.0 rating out of that.
Right.
So I feel like that
Yeah.
that part of it is purely, it's like subjective. And it's like, what do you want to play? Like people can go on and to a certain extent just choose, oh, I want to play with Sally in whatever league, and just mark that down when they're self-rating. But the only real like way to do it is head-to-head. And that's where sandbagging comes into play.
So you still haven't answered my question. Knowing what you know,
Should you be a 5-0?
would you consider me a 5-0 player?
Just purely based on the chart?
No, based on your experience. Hitting against me.
But it's not
So
black and
I
white.
guess the question for me is like,
There's
have
Texas,
you ever
there's
played?
Wisconsin. Like
100% true.
Have you ever played a 5-0 player?
I'm sure I have.
Have you ever beat them?
No.
You've never beat a 5-0 player.
I don't think that I've ever consciously said this is a 5-0 player.
based on the chart
So,
you're talking
no,
about.
No, no,
just,
in
like-
USDA, because I've never played 5-0.
But you've never played a 5-0
I've
player?
never played a
pretty
5-0
sure you-
match.
Have you ever played a college? Have you ever played a Division I college player and beat them?
Now listen,
fair enough.
I have played one official. He played at DePaul,
That's Division.
but he plays on my 4-5 team.
But okay, without
But I don't consider
the
him-
criteria
Correct.
of the criteria you said is that, or we all mentioned here, is if you play Division I tennis. Now, I mean, it's subjective to say, like you're saying, strong. Strong is subjective to whoever you're playing. You
For
could
sure.
be playing like Timmy, who doesn't have a strong forehand, and your
Timmy.
forehand. I didn't want to go like Thor or something, but Timmy, who has a weak forehand, and maybe he's consistent and he's a 5-5 because he's fast. You know, all these things are subjective to who you're playing. So if you have played a college Division I player and you've beat them, regardless if they're a 4-0 at this point in time, they were a 5-0 at time, and so it's kind of subjective. That's I
Well,
guess
I
where
would
the-
even.
So hold-
I'm going to help you out a second.
don't
But
know.
I would even take issue, like even to that, like the whole like Division I, Division II, that whole thing is bogus
Yeah.
anyway.
Yes.
Because top to bottom,
Oh,
the
yeah.
the
That's
playing ability of a top tier D1
Correct.
player and a bottom tier D1 player is completely different
A
universe.
world of difference.
So
just like the ratings, there's a world of difference. It's
100% from
Yes.
California to Wisconsin to New York or whatever. It's all completely
So
different.
basically, we're saying we can throw the whole thing out, and you can be a 4-5 or a 5-0 based on whoever you're playing and the subjectivity of. So it doesn't really matter. I mean,
So-
It
the
doesn't,
basis.
yeah. From place to place, like it's complete. Like Kansas City is way higher ranked than like in Oklahoma. Like we had to really kind of change our thought process when people would ask me like, what do you think I'm rated? And I said one time to this guy, I said, oh yeah, you're about a 4-0. And this girl was like, no, like 4-5 for sure in Oklahoma. Like it was a lot different from place to place.
So we didn't really go around the circle 100% on the 5-0, what you classify, but I'll give you my definition of 5-0. A 5-0
wait.
player, in my opinion, is somebody with a big serve, can win free points consistently, or not consistently, but at least one per service game with a big serve, either whether it be a big kick serve, a big flat serve, can consistently aim, isn't probably going to double fault a lot.
Hold on, let me make a
Wait,
chart.
is this men and
I'm gonna
women
I'm gonna write out a
also?
chart.
Sure.
Okay.
Ira's 5-0 chart.
Has another big weapon, most likely a forehand. I mean, you've played against me, you've played against Kevin. My forehand is nowhere near the level of elasticity and power and probably spin than Kevin's. Would you agree?
Agree.
So my forehand isn't as good as his. It's different.
We're going back. Yeah.
But
It's very
not
different.
It's not a big weapon.
I'd much rather face yours than Kevin's.
Yes. So my criteria for 5-0 typically is all-around good player with two big weapons that they can use to dictate points. Whether it be a backhand, a forehand, or a serve. Serve is a must.
I'm just curious here. What are you just classifying as a weapon? What's your strategic classification of a weapon?
For what is my
No,
weapon?
just in general. I'm just curious.
I would say a serve for sure, like a big serve.
But what makes it a what makes
What's the classification?
The
that
ability
you-
The definition of a weapon to
The
you.
the ability to dictate, like consistently and get free points off of.
So basically, some ability to control the situation and create free points
Correct. Consistently.
consistently.
Yeah.
Would you see your like mental attitude? And I have never played you, but I've heard stories. Would you say your mental attitude of how you approach playing players and your maybe particularly scrappiness or
For sure.
way to annoy players? Would you classify that as a weapon?
Absolutely.
But that's not on the chart.
That's correct.
So would you say that might give you an advantage
Correct.
over some players to beat players that are maybe better than the?
Sure.
Okay,
Absolutely.
I'm just wanting to give a.
I think the mental attitude and how you approach playing is definitely not calculated in the USTAs.
Well, wouldn't you say it's a huge difference? Like if you are able to use that mental ability or potential weapon, do you think that gives you sometimes a greater advantage
For sure.
than just a stroke or a serve or a forehand?
the fact that mental is completely left out of
That's
the
scary.
chart is kind of ridiculous.
Yes, but it's harder to like summarize mental
Totally. For sure.
attributes versus physical attributes.
For sure.
I would say, however, that if you were to say you can
Wait,
be
under the chart under 5.0 the criteria beats
Badass.
himself or herself less than the 4.5 player.
seriously,
Yeah, it says it right
yeah,
here.
There's the mental.
So there you go.
4.5 beats themselves or less than 4.0.
This is interesting because when you said mental attitude, and I think there's a wide variety. Like there's players that are average, and then there's like really tough mental players, and then really weak mental players. Like I would say that for me personally, I'd rather have an average mental toughness and have a huge serve and a huge forehand. I think to be honest, like
That's interesting.
I don't really care how mentally tough you are. If you can't get my serve or you can't stay with my forehand, like
But if
more
you're
than
mentally
likely
tough,
than
you
not.
can't apply it, very consistently.
Well, I'm saying I'm an average. You went to if you're not mentally tough, like most 5-0 players are probably pretty mentally tough. I'm saying probably. On average. They're more mentally tough on average probably than
it's
a
debatable.
4.5. I mean, I'm saying average, not like certain specific players, like,
Curious?
yeah. I don't want to go there, but
It's okay. I don't think he listens.
Yet.
Okay, so I'm curious. I want to know like the basis of where we're going with this.
well, I think we're defining what a 5-0 is because
I think we've all kind of now defined
So
what
then-
a 5-0
yes.
is.
Yeah.
if
So what's the reason? What's the thought process? I feel like behind this whole controlling the.
in my
Why
heart
don't
of
you want to be a
hearts-
5-0? I think is where it started.
Well, there's two reasons. In my heart of hearts, I honestly don't believe I'm a legit 5-0 player. Based on those, like I don't have a big serve. I can't, ace people on consistently. I mean, I would be lucky if I aced a person twice in a match.
So
And-
what if you? Sorry, go ahead.
And secondly, I don't have a big weapon. I mean, my backhand's a liability. My forehand is okay. I mean, it's a decent
you can hit
forehand.
winners with it.
Sure, I can hit winners, but it's not like I have the big, heavy. What you hear. That sound that it makes when good players hit a forehand, and I know you guys know what I'm talking about, but that noise, I don't have that. I'm a little late in my contact, but it's serviceable. It's manageable.
So if you moved to North Dakota and didn't lose a 4-5 match because the level of relative competition is not as high there, and for the record, I don't know how high the level of competition is in North Dakota. I'm going out
Throwing
on a
North
limb.
Dakota on under our bus
What
right
is he
now.
trying to say about North Dakota?
Hold on, let me look up our listener stats for North Dakota. and you hypothetically just won without even trying hard, all your matches at 4 or 5, do you still not think you should be rated a 5-0?
Yes.
For that area.
That's where it all changes when you go to Chicago, Texas, Baltimore.
So are you speaking purely Wisconsin?
I'm speaking on my own behalf. Like, I honestly still, like, in my heart of hearts, don't believe I'm a legit 5-0 player. Now, can I compete?
No matter how much you win?
I'll get to that. Now, I would say that, I'll go to that right now. I would say that I win a lot because I'm a good 4-5 player. But I don't beat everybody. I mean, this year I did beat everybody. But but here's the thing. First of all, I was playing all doubles. So doubles is, like, me personally, I really only have at most control of 45% of that match. I mean, realistically, like, I can poach. I'm good at poaching. I move well at the net, all that kind of stuff. But the level of my opponents varies, and there's 2 people on the other side of the net. So that dynamic rating of every player comes into a thing. And a lot of my matches, if you look up, aren't like 6-2, 6-2. I think 3 out of my 6 went in 3 sets, which, to be honest, I think the whole 10-point tiebreaker is a joke, because at any point anybody could win a match. I've won 3 of those like 10-7. So I mean, at that point, like, am I really that much better, a whole half point better than everybody else on the court? So that's what I'll say with that. Now, the other reason why I don't want to be a 5-0 is because, particularly in Wisconsin, there's not a plethora of 5-0 players. And so for me, that eliminates my adult summer tennis fun. And I don't want that. So a little bit selfishly.
There, like 2 or 3 teams or
there's
something?
No teams.
There's just currently 0 teams. It used to be like 2.
Because everyone's sandbagging.
Everybody's back down at 4-5.
And so I think that plays a big role, is that I like to play summer tennis. And even though I do win, I know for a fact there are players in our league that are better than me talent-wise. I'm not saying I've lost to them, or I haven't beat any of them officially in a singles match, but I know that there are players that have physical attributes that are superior than mine that will maintain a 4.5 record. So I may or may not be the only one potentially that could have sandbagged a match. Officially not this year, though.
He is smiling right now.
To me, the whole rating yourself out of like competition is the most, like, I want to say legitimate, but it's something that, depending on the geography of where you play, is a real consideration. Like, same thing, for me. Once I got bumped up to 5-0, and I've been bumped up to 5-0, appealed down to 4-5, and got moved back up again to 5-0, just for context. And Ira tried to get me to appeal again, but
do you remember your record the year that you got bumped up?
I was
to
like
5-0?
5-3.
Yeah,
it was like not anything.
Yeah, do you consider yourself a 5-0 player
By the chart?
Yes.
Not by the chart.
Okay.
No.
Just curious.
That's interesting.
By the number next to my name, sure, but I've only played a handful of matches, in the last couple of years, and so.
Are you talking about currently, or like when you would play a lot?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, if I'm playing 3 or 4 times a week, I think I'm a 5-0 player.
Okay, I think that's a really important statement to make. Obviously,
I'm going based on if I go play a match
right now, but I mean currently when you were playing and stuff.
A middle of the road legit 5-0 player, like I lose that match.
Okay,
I think.
But I think there's also. Oh, sorry. Are you done?
No, I just wanted to kind of reiterate the point of, like, based on geography and rating, you very well might bump yourself out of competitive.
Based on opportunity.
Yeah, depending on what's available.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I think there's also another element too, and that is, like, for instance, not to throw my father under the bus, but my father is a very good player, and he got to a point at playing 5-0, and he was literally playing like all of our kids, and he's 60 years old, and so he was like, "This is." Like, they would just go out and, like, talk about us because there was no point in playing. Like, he was like, I would just get killed, playing at that level. So I think that's another, like, age and the ability. Although he's very good, he's a lefty. He's he's crafty, and he's
hate lefties.
Me and you both. Okay, and he's like a solid player. But for him, he doesn't want to go out and just play 25-year-olds the whole time that all played Division I. or currently played Division One
Yeah,
on a regular
great point.
basis.
I think
Age.
it's a tough, something we were talking about earlier, in the sense that it's an environmental, almost systemic problem. Meaning it's a systematic problem, because if the environment is forcing you to hey, I can't play 5-0, what am I going to do? And I think that's a problem on one side of these sandbaggers. Not everybody's in that same boat, but I do think that is an issue where it's I'm going to play myself out of playing, which becomes an issue.
So, and the other thing, going along with what you said, is it's all based on an algorithm. But does the algorithm know how many games went to deuce? Does the algorithm know that maybe your opponent broke a string in the middle of a match and couldn't pull it together? So if have you ever beaten somebody 6-1, 6-2, where you're that really didn't feel like
the way it was supposed to go?
Yeah, I beat him, but really it could have very easily been 6-4, 6-4. But what if that's the match that gets you bumped up?
Well, and there's the other scenario. There's one more scenario, and that is that people sandbag because everyone else around them is also sandbagging, and to play at that level, just
protect the names.
I know I'm not going to throw them on the bus, but there's certain people that played on a team together and went to nationals, and they were far and above the rating that they went.
The team was a Division I
college team together.
Not you're a Division I team.
They were playing 5-0, but the level was very, very high. I mean, it was definitely in the 6-0 category level. They all could
People
have
had
gotten
points?
Yeah. And they were all Americans, and they were, you know what I'm saying? They
Good for them.
played.
Get that 5-0 national championship.
No,
They didn't win.
They
That was-
lost. They got third because everyone else,
Let's say, were they out drinking the night before?
No,
No.
Literally, I was oh, are you guys winning everything? And they were like, no, we're losing. Everyone was sandbagging, and so it was
epidemic.
really hard. Yeah, and so they were like, well, what's the point in us trying to play, at a higher level when everyone around us, we're not winning at nationals. We might be killing everyone in our region, but at a national level, things are way
Taking
different.
another level higher.
Yeah. I know at 3-5, in Oklahoma, Puerto Rico was killing everyone for 10 years. They won nationals at a certain level because their rating system was so different than ours. So there's different, types of things. Sorry.
There's just one more scenario that we haven't brought up yet that I want to make sure we touch on. And I know we've all had at least a little bit of experience with this because we've all been teaching pros at one point or another. But there's also the whole social, in particular in a club environment where you've got your A team and your B team and your C team, and the ladies in particular don't want to leave the partner they've been playing with for years and years and years, or they don't want to leave the team captain. And so I think there's a lot of cajoling in a club environment as well, men and women, that don't want to get bumped away from their peer group that they're used to playing with. And that's a whole other, I feel subset, outside of NTRP, where it's internal politics and internal kind of trying to maneuver for position and whatnot.
Unless everyone's moving up, they stay there.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't want to be the one that leaves the team or whatever it is. Or a whole team is we don't want to go to that higher division because they're comfortable where they are. They're used to winning, and they know that getting bumped up to that next tier of competition means they got to kind of start from the bottom again and make their way up. Thoughts on the team environment? Or
no, I think that's true. I think ladies, I think, is really big with that. They like to move up together. They, it's a social aspect of it.
I think some level comes into it. I totally agree with the ladies, but I think there are some level incentives. When you're a lower level, it's you're so pumped. It's I'm 3-5. I'm getting close to 4-0, and then that's when I think a lot of the social It's like all the 3-5 ladies want to be that 4-0 lady that's like getting it done on that 4-0 team.
I don't think that's true though.
But I think it just depends. It's like the type of club you have. You have usually those 4-0, 4-5 ladies. They're like the queens. It's like everyone looks up to them, and it's like, I want to be there. And then you have the other girls that are like the 3-0s that they're not quite socially independent yet, and so they want to stay in this. They want to stay in this group.
We're not at a club anymore.
We can say they want to stay in the group, and they tend to move up together. But I think once you get to like 3-5, there's this little bit of separation because you can see the light, you can see the jump, and you're like, I could be one of the queens.
I was like pushing people to move up, and they like
there's
did
the other
not
side
want
too,
it.
where they're terrified.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think there's the terrified, but you do have those really ambitious ladies. That
They're the
wanna,
outliers, though.
Yeah,
but
they
I think
are.
on guys,
In
it's
a club
totally
environment.
different. I think guys, early on, guys don't care and they slowly get bumped up, but then you start seeing the sandbag as you get higher in level, and it's like, dude, I don't want to get my butt kicked. And then when you get to like the 4-5, 5-0 level, then we have the introduction of the sandbag.
Professionals.
The professional, the
So-
strategic baggers.
I just would like to add one point. The reason that I'm maintaining as best as I can my 4.5 rating is not because I'm scared of losing at 5-0. It's because there's no opportunity.
Yeah.
And that is the number one thing, because I'm not scared of competition. You know, if
you were still in Texas, would you welcome the 5.0?
if
rating?
there were yes, because there are
There's tons of
opportunities.
5.0 and above in
yes.
Texas,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and the other thing is being a 4-5, it opens up opportunity to play like mixed doubles.
So would you appeal down in Texas?
I didn't stay there long enough to face that.
Would you
I
have-
did
would-
appeal down while I was in Texas.
Yeah.
The other reason is because I was also playing a 4-5 league. I was rostered on a 5-0 league, but never played through the club that I was teaching at. I also played mixed 8-0 and mixed 9-0. So in theory, if I would have gotten bumped up, I couldn't play mixed 8-0.
So it's more so like a social thing. You want to maintain the social connection.
Opportunity.
But in Texas, come on. Like,
Well, yes, but
in
playing-
Texas, there's a buttload of players at every level.
For sure, but I'd had to drop two of the
But you could
That's what I'm
gain
saying.
another two
You
teams
would have had
that
to
are
drop
a higher
the
level.
social connection of those two teams at 4-5. But obviously, I mean, I don't know. We've been in Oklahoma. We'll be in Texas. Like Texas is insane for the amount of players at every level.
Yeah, no, so there's no like 5-0 tournaments. It goes from 4-5 to open.
No.
So essentially you would
just play open.
You play
No.
open.
Yeah.
No.
And so at that time I had no reason to play open. I never won a 4.5 tournament. I did get to the semis of a 130 plus draw.
4-5.
So at
4-5.
4-5, lost to another teaching pro from Houston.
Okay.
So, I mean, I was
That's
doing,
fair.
and however, when in another 4-5 tournament, I lost and played 4 high schoolers from Mexico who, like, honest to God, came up and were high school, and I crushed them because, you know, they're just playing 4-5 and they're, you know, 15, 16 years old. And I think there's a huge physical difference between, I mean, for the most part, unless you're like,
when you're a man like
that's
Ira.
right. You guys don't know about these guns here. But yeah, I mean, so there was a wide variety of 4.5 also. And so, you know, I did well in one tournament. I lost first round in another and then won 4 in the back draw. I'd actually like to look that up because I'm pretty sure.
It seems like you were doing pretty well as a 4.5, probably better than some. I mean, if you lose
I would
the
say
first,
in the upper echelon-ish
the upper
of
echelon.
the 4.5.
So you could probably categorize yourself as at least an early adopter of the 5.0 tag. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agree. But I wouldn't consider myself like a middle of the road 5.0 player.
But you've made birth.
Yeah, and that's the other interesting thing because that's an interesting way to put it, by the way.
You've birthed the 5.0 tag.
So there's the other thing. So in the official dynamic ratings, and you can look them up. That's like TSL or TRS or whatever. Have you guys familiar with
UTR?
that? No. There's TSL. There's it's like an unofficial dynamic rating where it like takes your matches.
Yeah.
And so
TRP?
No,
it's
it's
unofficial.
Yeah,
you can look it up. I think it's
it
TSL.
comes out like 3 months before
Right.
and you can look it up. You
So-
pay a certain amount to get the whatever.
Well, Scott Brody does that for me.
Or
so,
that, yeah.
So what happens is, or go to tennisrecord.com. That's another great website. You can look me up there. Ira Miling.
Are you going to teach us how to sandbag, Ira?
No. So what the ratings are for a 4.5 is 4.01 to 4.501. And in my opinion, and I don't know everything, but I think it should be 4.25 to 4.75 because then you're splitting the difference. Because if I'm what they consider like a good 4.5, I should be like 4.568. And I think my dynamic rating, if you look it up, is very close to like a 4.63, which in my opinion doesn't qualify me as a 5.0. And again, that's my opinion.
Yeah, I feel it's kind of semantics. Like for me, as long as everybody's judged on that same scale, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference.
I just think it's all about you're going to if you legitimately never sandbag a match, then your rating is going to show. I think depending upon the matches that you play, it's going to be.
What it should be.
Right. What it should be.
Right.
Now, I do think that win and losses is different for the same person in all different parts of the United States.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a huge issue when you go to nationals. And
Definitely.
so I think that is one huge reason that a lot of people sandbag, because they want to be good at nationals and they want to win and they want to do well.
And their region doesn't make it easy for them.
Exactly.
Never qualified for regionals or nationals, by the way. Went to Indy once. So there again, I would consider myself a good 4.5 player.
That's on the team, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, your team could be holding you back, right?
In theory. I would like to consider I'm a good enough captain to get good 4.5 players.
I'm just curious.
I just went through the checklist of who could be listening to this.
Exactly.
All right.
No, yeah. I think those are the biggest factors, though, for sure.
I feel like we've covered. What do you got? You got the T.
This is just the tennisrecord.com.
Yeah.
And as of 9/15/2019, I'm actually at 4.38. So it's looking good for me to remain at 4.5 for the next year.
Congrats.
Although I went 6-0 this year.
Is it still November that they move everyone up?
I don't know for sure. 6-0 this year. That's not
Because it
bad.
used to be right
no sandbagging this
before
year.
Thanksgiving.
I think
when they
it's
always let
around that time. Yeah.
Are we sure no sandbagging?
Not yet.
He's like, from here on out, I got to make sure I stay at 3 point.
All right. I feel like we've covered just about everything. I
Agree.
I want to go around the circle and get a stance from everybody. Is sandbagging okay? Is it permissible? And if yes, under what circumstances? If no, is it like across the board, like absolutely, like it's always bad? It's like always a negative thing? I'd just love to hear everybody's opinion. Ira?
So my honest opinion is it depends on what you're looking for in your own game. This is a very Ian Westerman answer, I feel.
Good start.
The reality is I'm not a very good volleyer. So if my mindset is to walk into a match to, hey, I'm going to try to volley as much as I can today, and I serve and volley, I return and volley, without regards to winning or losing the match, then I think it's fine, because for me personally, I'm working on something that I want to get better at without caring if I win or lose.
But I think sandbagging by definition means you're purposefully trying to lose.
But I would call that creative gameplay.
what you're talking about is
Strategic.
But is it
is trying to
manipulation?
develop a certain part of your game, like for like
knowing
game
that I'll
development.
probably lose?
Right. So which is the higher priority? I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, that's completely,
Are you trying to say nobody will ever know?
I'm saying that there has been times where I've gone through matches playing a way that I know I'm not good at in an effort to get better.
He did the full air quotes just so everybody
YouTube
knows.
viewers are going to get the full
Yeah.
experience here.
I have gone to the net more than I should have, not caring that if I lost, I lost.
So sandbagging okay or no?
He
Yes.
just gave you the answer.
Yes.
Yes.
So I think when you're sandbagging because you either don't have the opportunity to play at the level you're at, or you honestly feel like it's better competition at where you are, then I think then that's legitimate. I don't think sandbagging when it comes to you don't care, that like tanking, like you're in the middle of a match and you just don't care, or the I don't want to come back, work my way all the way back through the match. So I'll just lose this and hope that I get into the tiebreak situation.
So you think that's not okay?
I don't. I've never been a fan of that.
Have you ever been down 1-5 and just like, I'll just take my chances in a 10-point tiebreaker?
No, I actually have never.
I have.
Because a tiebreaker, like you were saying, is so versatile. I mean, it's a flip of the coin half the time on who wins and loses because mental toughness. There's so many factors that come into play there. So I would think it's much better to take your chances on trying to work your way back and have the tiebreaker be the last resort. So that's my yes. If it's because of opportunity or age or to where you legitimately feel like your best play is at a level lower.
So just for the record, you're saying it is okay and it is not okay.
Yes, correct.
So you're like right on top of the fence.
Yes, correct, Ira.
Just want to get that clear.
You started your answer with it depends on what the player wants to get out of it.
But
I love how you started your answer like that, and then you're like with the air quotes. I personally play a way that allows me to go into the net, knowing that it's not my best play, but
I'm working on my game.
So in other words, if you play Ira and he says he's working on his volleys,
if he's coming in the net,
not
he's sandbagging.
a good match.
No, I agree with Megan. I think like I was saying, it's a problem with the system in the sense that there's just such a wide range of players within, like, let's say from 4-0 to 5-0. That's a huge range of what you can possibly get. And so it's hard if you are that person who kind of like you're going to be a 5-0 and you're like, I'm not going to be able to play anymore. You're going to enjoy yourself. That sucks. And, the whole point of the game is the enjoyment of it. So in that sense, that's probably the only time I would like condone. I even hate saying it. Condone it. From the standpoint of like,
looking pretty good, right?
Yeah, I know. You've got a decent case in the sense of not having the opportunity.
Prepared.
Yeah.
We're going to put together an entire 5-0 team in the state of Wisconsin so that you have
I'm signing up for 5-0 tomorrow.
Or we could appeal and come down to 4-5 with me.
Yeah, actually, we'll play some 4-5 matches. I hit a lot of drop shots. Bring you to net.
Oh, you'll win then.
I agree with Megan in the sense of the tanking, like even if you're down in the second, just because there's so many opportunities if you're down to start coming back. Generally, if you can start coming back, that creates a lot of mental pressure. If someone's losing a lead and going into that tiebreak is just such a crapshoot, unless just like, I've had a match where it's like, oh yeah, I was just totally off those couple of points, but still that's just a big gamble. Mm-hmm. So for me, the whole tanking thing, and I've talked about it before, tanking in a sense for me is like just a no-goes bar on it.
I have pulled multiple children off the court for tanking in mid-match. Yep.
Yeah.
Can I just interject really quickly? What do you guys think of John Isner?
I don't
like
really
as a
follow
person,
as a player.
He's tall.
I would sometimes. What'd you say?
He's tall.
I would consider him
Nice.
in some respects a little bit of a sandbagger, especially when he gets down in an opponent's service game. After he goes for a big return on the first and second service. He gets down low 30. He's like, it doesn't really matter the next 2 points. I'll just hold off for my serve. So there are littler definitions of sandbagging.
It's
like
a very thin line that you're cutting there because it's because it's a strategic move. It's almost like if you look at Pete Sampras. Pete Sampras had this deal where he's like, I know I'm going to hold serve, so I'm going to just tee off on returns, and I know I'm going to connect on one game.
And if I don't get it, I don't get it.
If I don't get it, I don't get it. But here's I think the micro difference between you and Pete Sampras is.
Can we end it here? I'm good with that. I came, I saw it, I conquered.
See you next time.
I think the strategic purpose of him going after returns is that his purpose is to win the points versus going to the net knowing that you're going to probably lose the points. Mm-hmm. John Isner, when he's going for those returns, is thinking like, I'm taking a rip to win these points. He's not like taking a rip and hitting it in the fans like, hey, a little off there.
I'm not like purposely dumping volleys into the net.
I mean, you're
my volleys just aren't good in general.
So here's the question.
You can attest to that.
But here's the question. In that situation, if your volleys what's your best stroke?
Oh God, there's so many.
Yeah. Okay. Exactly. So you have so many more options. To, like you said, you tend to maybe slap your forehand.
Yeah.
Why not just slap your forehand?
Wait,
and
I
just
never said I slap. You been telling them I slap forehands?
You kind of mentioned you guys were talking. So yeah, the whole like I have no weapons. Yeah, the whole deal where you're like, oh, come out and like, whoa, I don't have any weapons and I just come to net and no, you slap forehand. So why don't you just slap forehands and just try to win the point outright from slapping forehands instead of coming to net and going to kind of a weaker play? I think that's that subtle difference.
I agree. I would just rebuttal that by saying because I'm good at slapping forehands. Now, slapping forehands isn't necessarily. I wouldn't consider a slap forehand like your forehand.
No, I mean it's,
because
right, but Isner's slap forehand is probably
I think whenever you slap, there's like that in the back of your mind. There's that like, I'll just slap it and see what happens.
You know, you're spinning the roulette wheel and it's
right.
Yeah, but
right,
the
but
difference is like, do you slap a forehand and like a couple of them hit the tarp, or you slap a forehand with the strategic sense of like, hey, this is going to be a big forehand. There's a good chance it'll go in, but there's probably a chance of going out. Versus like, I'm coming in at. This is my weaker shot, and I need to.
Yeah, it's probably not going to go well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like I think that's the difference where these guys are strategically setting their game up with the purpose of connecting on something to create something. You're kind of setting yourself up for the fall. You're like, I'm coming in that. Just slap a forehand, Ira. Slap it.
I agree with you to a certain degree. I will disagree within the fact that John Isner on his and this is micro sandbagging. That like, okay, if I get down 30 love, like I'll just. Pack it in, kind of. I'll play the point, but I'm not going to give full effort.
How do you describe packing in?
Well, like not giving full effort.
But
like,
how?
Like
you guys have seen John.
But time out. Like not giving full effort that he doesn't run to a ball, or that he's just outright slapping shots.
I would probably say both.
Like, are you on the fence here, or are you picking?
No,
one?
I would say both. Like
he's doing both.
He goes for a huge return, or he unnecessarily, like he's on, like let's say they have a wide serve and he just tries to slap it down the line.
Yeah,
like, that's really not a smart tennis shot. Would you agree?
I would agree that's not a smart tennis shot. But do you think he has the intention of winning the point? I think the intention here is where...
I think he could care less if he won or lost it. Because he knows that at love 30, professionally, it's hard to break at love 30.
Yeah, okay. So you're thinking that he's slapping forehands down the line and he just has no real intention of like winning the point? Or is he trying to end the point early, using his potential weapon to do so?
I would say that he's not thinking, man, I bet I can get back in this game if I slap a few forehands down the line. Like I mean,
you don't think he's thinking,
no,
maybe I can't get back in the game by grinding, so I'm going to cut the point shorter and really go after it? Or do you think he's thinking, I'm going to come to net, I'm going to chip and charge?
Before it gets on net.
That's my answer.
Right, fair enough. We'll leave it
Ian,
at that.
what do you think?
This is definitely the deepest conversation on sandbagging, I think, probably in the history of tennis, which I'm proud of. Nice job, everybody. Mm-hmm. So yeah, my opinion on it, I'm glad I went last because I like my snap decision. I wasn't really satisfied with. I just have a hard time like picking a side, and I will leave like 4% for extenuating circumstances. Like there are some like geographical and availability of competition related reasons why I think it, in my mind, could be permissible. But I think the vast majority of the time, in my mind, I think this is kind of what you're trying to get at, Megan.
Yeah.
When you lose on purpose, I think it insults your opponent. I think it's disrespectful to the spirit of the game. And it's not why people showed up that day. And so I think the vast majority of the time, I'm not okay with it. And again, this is just my personal opinion. But I think there's in a small fraction of cases where there's so many layers, and all of us kind of touched on this a little bit a few times. The system is so convoluted, and there's so many layers to it. You've got like the club environment, and then you've got the local environment, then you've got the state, then you have the region, then you have national, and it's like, what are you trying to optimize for? And depending on how you're trying to navigate that like roadmap, you might have to, like maneuver some stuff to like give yourself the best possible chance.
Can you define maneuver?
My goodness.
Can you maneuver the maneuver?
And so I think in a very small minority of situations where somebody has a very specific outcome they're trying to optimize for, maybe I'd be okay with it. But again, it's 4%. 96% of the time, I'm going to go ahead and say I'm not okay with it. That's my answer.
That's a good answer.
Good answer.
Had a while to think about it. Anything else we left on the table?
Experiences.
I've beaten myself a lot, but never on purpose. I've definitely never sandbagged, for sure. And I felt a little dirty asking to go back down to 4-5 again, to be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah, although because there's a big part of you know me. Like I like to, all of us, I think to a certain degree, like to see ourselves through our best possible like effort. And I think when I'm at my best, when I'm playing a lot, I think I am a 5-0. Like that's my level of competition, I think. Now I'm not there right now. Like at this moment, 4-5 is probably the best place for me to be a competitor and compete. But I don't like viewing myself through that lens. Like if I'm going to be a competitor, I want to compete for like my best. And so I don't remember what your question was or what you were responding to, but
Experiences.
oh yeah. So yeah, I've honestly never been like, well, I've never lost a match on purpose for sure.
Have you ever tanked?
This
Been
goes
down big in a second set.
This
and
goes
said,
back
just-
to like
just-
the emotional versus tactical.
just
Emotionally, 100%. Yeah, I've definitely emotionally like checked out and just freaking nosedived and beat myself fast. Yeah, no question. But never like out of some scheme like,
Right.
oh, I'm gonna
Scheme.
figure this out. But yeah, there's no question I beat myself in the past a lot.
Iro?
Well, first of all, and I like you a lot, Ian.
But
All good comments start with a preface like that.
what's that?
I don't think you're a 5-0 player.
Yeah.
I think that maybe at some point you could compete at 5-0, but
Yeah.
I've played against you a
Do
lot.
you mean right now
Yeah,
or
no,
potentially?
I'm talking about like in your past. But
You don't think I've ever played at a 5-0 level?
No, I said you may have. I
Okay.
don't think that I would classify you as a 5-0 player.
I wouldn't right now. Yeah,
Even-
isn't
but-
that what I said? Like right now, I'm.
Yeah, but this is
He's
the
saying-
So here's the thing, and you said, well, if I practiced every day and all that kind of stuff, yeah, I mean, I think if a lot of people practiced every day, but the reality is in USTA leagues, these are mostly adults that have jobs that have other responsibilities.
We literally hit once this like last 3 months.
Fair, but even give you, go ahead and hit. What would you say the average adult plays state league hits a week?
At least once to twice a
Okay,
week.
so
twice, yeah.
giving yourself twice a week, you think you could really get up to a 5-0 level?
Twice a week. When you say up to a 5-0 level, you mean like being competitive at 5-0? Like what?
Yeah.
Winning. How much?
Are we
What
talking
percentage of my
about
matches?
in Milwaukee?
Like winning some matches.
Yes.
Okay.
Currently, like if you were to play in,
If I played twice a week, I could win some matches
Yeah, I
at 5-0.
think you
Yeah.
could too.
really?
Yeah.
In Wisconsin or
You went 5-3.
California or Texas?
Remember in
Yeah.
Milwaukee when we were playing a little bit, like you
Yeah,
and I
I
would
wasn't-
hit, but
yeah.
you went 5-3 at 4-5.
right after taking like 5 years break off. Like I wasn't on the court at
But-
all. I
but
wasn't
he-
even feeding and playing customer
But to
tennis.
be honest, I don't think that you have. I mean, I think you're going to argue this, but I don't really think that you have a game that like needs a ton of rhythm and like a ton of hits. Like I think you can come out there and just kind of play.
We're getting off in the weeds, but I
That's just my-
respect. I respect the conversation. I just don't know that anybody at home really cares.
Yeah, 'cause I've seen your forehand and your serve, and I like they're no bigger or better than like what I would classify as a 5-0. Just throwing that out there. So
You also never saw me when I was training and playing
correct,
my best tennis.
Yes, in college when you'd play every day.
Yeah.
For sure. Have not. Would love to though. Sorry, that kind of threw me off. What was the question?
Experience.
So
Experiences.
I've only purposefully, I would say I set myself up to lose one match for sure. And how it happened
Ever?
was
Are we talking
Or
about
this year?
sandbagging or tanking?
no, this is I lost a match. I hit a shot knowing that it would probably lose the match.
Was it a volley?
I didn't miss, but I gave the opponent an opportunity to hit a ball that we
Is
were
this
going
the
to lose.
only one ever?
I'll get to the second
all
one.
right.
So the first one was in a mixed doubles match, and my partner.
This is when you were at Essential Tennis, wasn't it? I remember you telling this story.
It might have been just before Essential Tennis or whatever. Anyways, and this is gonna sound kind of bad, but whatever. So I was playing mixed doubles. My partner is very competitive, and she still to this day isn't really happy with me. Although we are friends and we talk a lot, and she's a member at the club that I work at. I'm not going to say names.
And she's
Hi.
listening right now.
No, she probably won't hear this, and she knows. I told her.
Someone will pass it on, I'm sure.
So what happened was, I think we were down 7-9 in a tiebreaker, we were up, and then we ended up getting irrelevant. So what happened was she was serving to me. I was playing the ad side, and her partner was a pro at the club that we were playing at. And so she faults the first one, and I'm thinking, oh God, I hope she doesn't double fault, because then she'll, we have a chance of like winning this. And so she hit a second serve, and I purposefully...
Why did you want to lose this match?
I'll get to that. I purposefully hit a down the line forehand to the pro who was down the line, and he then just hit it through the middle, which all good doubles players would do. So that lost the match. The reason why, and this is where I might get into a little bit of hot water with some people, but my team had been eliminated from postseason competition. And there was a very close race between the team that we were playing and another team, which had some people on it that I didn't like, that had gotten to a confrontation with earlier on in the year, like just some jerks on the court. And so in mixed doubles, you play 3 matches. So I ended up losing mine thinking, well, this team's pretty good that we're playing. Most likely what's going to happen is we'll split. And if I lost mine, it's not the end of the world, because then their team would advance and the team that I had some issue with wouldn't advance. And so I lost the match, in my mind, hoping that the rest of my team would split or lose, and then their team would advance. I'm just
Did
being
that
honest.
happen?
I do believe so.
Well, then it was all worth it, Ira, there.
The second match that I is the one I referred to earlier about practicing my volleys. I played a singles match against actually a guy that I really don't like losing to, but I knew I had done well that year, and I knew that I want to look this up now. I knew that if I lost, it wouldn't be bad for me from a rating standpoint, and so I went into the match serving and volleying, returning and volleying, just playing a style of tennis that I knew I wasn't good at. Now, I ended up losing 5-7, 5-7, which in my mind actually was a pretty big success, because I didn't go out there purposefully trying to lose points. But like, since I'm not a good volleyer, a lot of my first volleys weren't great, and he could pass me. I wasn't like not trying to win, but I wasn't playing a style game that I felt comfortable winning.
To win?
So I played a style not caring whether I won or lost, but practicing what I had intended on practicing.
It's a great way of saying you're not trying to win.
It's a creative way of playing.
All right, Megan.
Okay.
I don't even remember what we're talking
Your
about.
experiences sandbagging? Personal
Yeah, I've never sandbagged.
Tank.
I've never mentally totally have tanked many a matches in my life. I was not.
I feel like every tennis player at some point is just
tough.
is
Yeah.
just checked out.
Yeah.
I did play on a team in Kansas City and had an experience where we're warming up and we're hitting and I was like, man, the girl I'm hitting against is really good. Like, you could just tell she was just really good. And so we brought everybody up, and we were all tennis coaches that were playing, like, for fun. And I was like, do you play tennis, like, regularly? She was like, yeah, I just spent 3 months in Spain, like, playing on the tour. And so there was a little bit of that was not very fun to play against once in a while. But, I mean, other than that, that was pretty much the only time that ever really, we just got killed. So
you think she was sandbagging?
Oh, for 100 times. We were playing on a 5-0 team. And
she had points, I think.
She had points, yeah. She definitely, and she had literally, like, who she
Why is
is.
that not
Yeah.
a thing? Why is that not a criteria? Oh, you have. Why is that not a checkbox?
You should be like a 6-0 for sure. I think it is.
6-0.
But there's some like loopholes and different things. And she definitely literally came back like a week later and was playing with us.
So here's another question for you. So if you answer the question on the USDA self-rating, did you play college tennis? Mm-hmm. It's not Division I, Division II, or Division III.
Right.
But if you played college tennis, you're automatically a 5-0. So would lying for that question be considered sandbagging?
Actually, that's true. I used to tell some people to say no to that.
So
if they
you
played
were helping people sandbag.
Right. If they played like at 3, if they played like low Division 3 or
Like I did.
or
Like
they
I did.
didn't
I played
play,
low Division 3.
then
It's a bogus question.
and they
in the
haven't
first
played
place.
in 20 years. Like there were so many people that, like they haven't picked up a racket in 20 years.
It needs
they
to be
played
more
no,
specific.
yeah.
It's way too general.
I thought
Agree.
they changed it. I thought there was a
It's college
okay.
tennis. I'm almost positive.
Yeah. Anyways, okay, experiences.
Yeah, no experiences. Never sandbagged. Never went to net to creatively
your
win,
volleys.
creatively not try to win my volleys. I've had one instance where I was in Spain and I was like pretty homesick. That I tanked like a couple games, but then I didn't want to lose the kid, so I pulled it together. But I generally don't tank. There's just something about it. It irks me.
It feels dirty for me.
Yeah, on purpose. Yeah. Mentally, though, I am like my worst critic.
Yeah.
Like I'll just crumble.
Oh,
I am
yeah.
mentally not tough on the court whatsoever, or
don't
never
know
was
about that.
really.
Yeah, I think there's a big difference.
Oh, I meant it like related to me. I wasn't.
So
I didn't mean you.
I would also just say, lastly, I think purposefully missing shots is insulting to another player. However, I think there are shots that you can hit that strategically, maybe aren't the best shots to go for.
I've never done
I
that
like
either.
the how you categorize. There's just like this black hole of like strategery and creativity where it's not. You use the word. It's not on purpose, but it's not on purpose. It's like it's interesting.
Well, that's where the creativity comes in.
I can see.
Because like if I'm on the run hitting a forehand and I hit it down the line, like tactically that's not a good play. I'm not saying I want to lose a point, but I know that it's not a good play.
But you're not saying you're really trying to win it.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can't think of a time where I hit a ball and was like, "Oh, I'm gonna." Well, except for that one.
I mean, you need to cut this off.
This is gonna
Yeah.
get deep. So
I think there's a
Ian,
difference
wrap it
between
up.
I think there's a difference between
You should just wrap it
purposefully
up while we're
like
talking.
hitting out and then hitting tactically shots that maybe you could lose. I think there's a difference there. Like insultingly lose to a player. I don't know if that's a word.
Yeah,
I just made that up.
I'm gonna show some restraint.
So, not sure we solved anything, but we at least got 4 opinions out there. Ira, I want to thank you for putting yourself out there. I mean, Ira's a local teaching bro, plays in this area, and I just respect, the fact that you're able to be honest about it and open about it. And it's a complicated issue. I mean, I think that's something I think everybody can agree on.
Yeah.
Based on geography and available competition and so many other variables, it's not as simple. There is no simple solution to it. No matter how bad of a system you think NTRP is, there's not like some light switch you can flip and just be like, well, that'll fix it, and have everybody like be on a perfect like level playing field. Do you have a light switch?
Well, what's the
UTR?
UTR,
Yeah.
which I think they're trying to
They're trying,
incorporate,
yeah.
and I
It's
don't really
great.
know. I don't know much about it. I don't know what my
I was looking up your UTR, but you don't have one.
yeah.
I thought that would have been really
There's
interesting.
like 3 Ira Mylans actually in the
Oh,
system.
maybe. Hold up.
Yeah. Anyway. So yeah, there are other technology companies out there that are attempting to solve this problem, and that I'm super excited about. I hope they keep working on it because I don't have a solution, but I don't think the current system is doing us any favors, and I don't know anybody who disagrees with that. Does anybody here disagree with that?
Nope.
Do you like the current system?
He likes to manipulate the current system.
He likes to creatively.
I would like to say that out of the 200 matches I've probably played, I mean this is a very small percentage. The majority of the matches I do play, I have fully intended on winning. So this isn't a representation of necessarily like how I play my matches, but this has been an instance. At least I'm willing to admit it.
Look at this, Ira. When you type, sorry. No. So anyway, thanks for listening, Mom, and anybody else who's still listening.
My mom,
My mom
too.
probably actually doesn't listen, so
Yeah, my
I don't know
mom
why I
doesn't
say that.
either, actually.
Thanks for listening. Hope you guys found this entertaining, maybe a little bit informative, and gave you a little bit more perspective. Catch you again on the next episode of Shankcast. If you're still listening and you want to do a rating and review on iTunes Music Store, through September, we're giving away courses. Probably should have opened with that, but that's
If
fine.
you're still listening, you deserve
Yeah.
that free course.
Absolutely. Everybody who's already rated and left reviews, we appreciate you guys tremendously. The show's off to a great start. So thank you all so much for your support, and we'll catch you next time.